This is Investment Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Daily live streaming interactive featuring Mrs. Backup. Subscribe, hit the notification, smash the likes. Now, here's Backup Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Good morning. Welcome back to Investment Perspectives, everybody. I'm Brad Kimes. You can follow me on Twitter at BackupBradley. Okay, we're going to talk about the FATF travel rule, which the deadline appears to be in 2 days. And now I don't know if we'll see some cataclysmic moment in crypto, and I doubt that we will. But I want to talk about some of the things that have happened recently with news that really shows that as a collective, the whole entire space is working towards resolving this situation. So what is the travel rule? So the travel rule itself means that they have to disclose, exchanges have to disclose, or anybody through crypto for that matter, but it starts with exchanges, anything over 1,000 USD or 1,000 euro, the sender and receiver information's got to go with it. Now, obviously, you can imagine when you're talking about things that can be sent globally and not just domestically, this can create a huge problem because of all the different regulations in each country, or just a lack of regulation in each country. So let's just take a look at this overview here and a couple things from this article, and we're going to move to some other pieces of news that tie in. So June 20th has finally arrived and brings with it the Final Action Task Force dreaded travel rule review deadline on the 24th of 2020 of June. The FATF will hold its annual June plenary, and which this year will be a virtual affair due to the pandemic. 2019's update recommendation 16 for virtual asset service providers will once again command center stage at 2020's mid-year plenary as the FATF's 12-month review process reaches its conclusion. As the FATF plenary approaches, crypto regulation leaders have pointed out that the non-binding FATF travel rule is causing the majority of member countries significant teething problems. As a result, it required time, effort for crypto regulators to globally overcome implementation hurdles such as the sunrise problem discussed further down, and we're going to get into that in a second. So I don't want to read this whole thing to you, so let's just go through this. So what is the FATF travel rule, just for everybody who may or may not know here? So the FATF's recommendation 16 now requires FATF's 200 plus member nations to ensure their vast virtual asset service providers like crypto exchanges share compliant user data with each other on by June 20th or June 24th, 2020. FATF travel rule non-binding guidance was adopted during June 19 by the FATF in its risked approach to virtual assets and virtual asset service providers. This is how the FATF deadline impact the virtual asset providers. Okay, so therefore, individuals are indirectly impacted by the R16 compliance deadline. Each crypto asset service provider should refer to their country's respective anti-money laundering regulatory framework and comply with it. Now, just for the people in the U.S., so you understand, is that when this came out last year, within 24 or 48 hours, the U.S. Treasury, Steve Mnuchin, Secretary, came out and endorsed all of these guidelines from the FATF, including the travel rule. So, okay, FATF members countries have reacted very differently. As you can imagine, FATF travel rule globally, with only a few nations taking the initiative while others took more cautious wait-and-see approach. This will result in the sunrise issue, where countries will implement the travel rule months, possibly years apart. Countries will balance their crypto regulatory framework against domestic legislation, infrastructure, and market considerations. So you can see the hurdles it takes just to get this one issue resolved on a global level here. The sunrise problem will potentially make it troublesome and risky for VASPs and from early adopter nations to do business with exchanges in laggard jurisdictions. Okay. And this should be a huge concern for all VASPs and could see non-compliant crypto exchanges eventually being shunned by their peers. That's interesting. Okay, so then it talks here about which countries have done this so far, and they cite Japan, South Korea, Singapore, Canada, South Africa, the Cayman Islands, and Switzerland. The United States Bank Secrecy Act travel rule in 2019 FATF presidency provided the genesis for the R16 update is already enforcing the info sharing requirements through its FinCEN, Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, set up the 2020 crypto regulation in 2019 already. So that's that endorsement that I was telling you about. And then it talks about further issues here because the EU, January's 2020 deadline for transposing the 5th anti-money laundering directive, has added pressure on EU nations to adopt the crypto regulatory frameworks. There's two big players in this game that are getting with it, and that is exciting to me. Okay, let's keep going here. What happens after FATF's travel rule review? It says here, expects the FATF to only reiterate their guidelines expectations on member countries during the plenary. This will help ensure that more VASPs can work together with greater confidence towards the firm rule compliance deadlines in each country following their meeting. So let's hear. I just want to see. I think this is the last I wanted to get to on this because you get the gist of it here. Okay. The next thing I want to move on to is this. Now, this is from February 4th, 2020. Now, inside the standards, race for implementation for FATF's travel rule. Now, I want to go down. Let's see. It's just this first part, I believe. So, just make sure I get the right spot here before we go on this. Okay. So imagine Swift's interbank messaging system, but for crypto. Hardcore blockchain libertarians would probably rather not, but firms that deal in cryptocurrency have been asked to abide by the so-called travel rule, and the clock is ticking. Although it goes against the grain of shoehorn and the identity layer onto technology specifically designed, pseudonymous firms have no choice if they want to abide by the law. The shape and form this will take is something the industry must agree on fast. Talks about the June 19 issuance of the guideline. The Global Anti-Money Laundering updated its guidance explicitly state that the virtual asset providers must share sender, originator, and receiver beneficiary information in cryptocurrency transactions above a certain threshold. So, okay, within the 1 year mark fast approaching, the FATF will review the progress and the travel rule solutions as June plenary meeting, as we discussed. And there was something else in here I wanted to show you about this. CipherTrace's TRISA uses public key infrastructure and certificate authorities know your VASP. It says certificate would be sent from exchange originating a transaction to the one receiving it. These certificates would be verified through a trusted third-party certificate authority. CipherTrace Chief Analyst John Jeffries pointed out that while a certificate authority might be controlled by a central entity, there are typically multiple distributed instances and therefore it doesn't constitute a single point of failure. This is interesting to me. Swift for crypto, and then it goes down into this section. Now, I don't want to get into this just yet because actually what I want to do is move to the next piece of news really quickly here, where this is from October 2nd, 2019. Okay, now remember they were talking about TRISA there. We're going to talk about that in a second again in that piece I just talked about. So in this, Ripple Spring launches crypto fiat payments that integrate into any app. Now what's interesting about this is down here in the bottom, we have a section of this that talks about, furthermore, Chainalysis is adding the XRP ledger to its blockchain analytics product. Chainalysis is a big deal. Now, maybe it was in this article here. Let me just take a look again really quickly here. Because there was a point in this where they talked about, here it is right here. Some of the offerings mentioned in the working group arena include Bitcoin Swiss, OpenVAS, CipherTrace's TRISA, SignaBridge, and Netkey, Shift, KYC chain, dedicated crypto sleuthing firms, including Elliptic, Confirm, and Chainalysis have all been working on this as well. Indeed, Chainalysis recently hired former FinCEN staffer Mike Moiser to help build travel rule capabilities. Furthermore, Chainalysis is adding the XRP ledger to its blockchain analytics product. Chainalysis recently hired FinCEN staffer Mike Moiser to help build the travel rule capabilities. And the XRP ledger has been added to Chainalysis analytics product. That's something I've covered before, but it's pertinent again because of the stuff that we're talking about with the travel rule and compliance issues. Michael Moiser came from FinCEN to head up Chainalysis, help develop the compliance and solve that issue so Chainalysis could be an authority on illicit fraudulent transactions and things of that nature. Michael Moiser recently returned back to FinCEN in the U.S. Treasury Department with a new title as the Deputy Director of Digital Innovation. So, congratulations to Michael Moiser, and congratulations to Chainalysis for adopting the XRP ledger to its blockchain analytics product, which is pretty interesting. Now, all this travel rule business has got us talking about PayID. Shout out to PayID, right? The Universal Payment Identifier. Well, this comes out just a couple days before the first deadline arrives for the travel rule and compliance and KYC and AML. We click on that and we end up with the TRISA, which we just covered a second ago, Decentralized Cryptocurrency Travel Rule Compliance, right? Moves you through the timeline of what's been going on this entire time with it. June 8th, extended digital certificate support, enhanced verification, and Ethereum keys. This is June 16th, cites the FATF plenary progress report, and we know that they have the meeting coming up in just a couple days here. So, pretty remarkable that they're working on all of this, right? And then I wanted to go to, which I believe that is the same thing. Then I wanted to go here. This is the SEC report for Ripple Labs. Now, we watched this to see if there's any documents filed, like an S1 document. And I just did a video over the weekend. If you haven't seen it, confidential IPO, just to let you know as a highlight, there is such a thing as a confidential IPO, and any company can choose to use it, which means that potentially, if they were prepared to, a company like Ripple could already technically have filed the S1 filings and be in the prospectus period, and they don't have to publicly announce that they're IPOing until 15 days before a roadshow. And a roadshow is when they take the company and take it around publicly and, you know, do the news and tout it in front of all the huge investors, right, and announce they're going public. And that period is usually about 10 days to 2 weeks. So thinking of it in that manner tells me that, you know, we could see a situation where when Ripple does announce, and maybe we do, maybe we don't know the answer, obviously, but it is possible with the ability to file confidential IPOs, which any company can do that intends to IPO. They can choose to file confidentially. They announce 15 days before. They have a 10-day roadshow, 2 weeks, and then they get listed. So I'm not saying that that's what they're doing, but I'm saying that could happen. So head on a swivel. This is crypto. You never know. Now, the other thing that's interesting here is you'll notice in the U.S. Patent Trademark Office filings that Ripple holds the patent trademark for PayID. Ripple is the solution to the travel rule through PayID and the XRP ledger, which has been adopted by Chainalysis, which has been put together and sculpted by Michael Moiser from FinCEN. These are interesting times we are in, ladies and gentlemen. I'll let you make your own conclusions, but I know what mine is. Okay, that's going to do it for me today. Hit the like and subscribe, guys, and leave a comment below. We will catch you on the next one.